Ever since Miles Morales launched on PlayStation 4 and 5, Spider-Man has been on my mind for quite some time. In the past month, I've finished Miles Morales 3 times leading up to the hardest difficulty. I saw Into the Spider-Verse for the first time in months, played a little bit of Spider-Man on the original PlayStation, and I'm already planning to stream Insomniac's first Spider-Man game as soon as we enter 2021. However, my absolute favorite piece of Spidey media has always been the 2004 film Spider-Man 2. With fantastic writing, excellent cinematography, and Alfred Molina's captivating performance as Doc Ock, this sequel would become one of my favorite superhero movies ever, as well as one of my favorite films in general. Unfortunately, the Spider-Man 2 video game had somehow flown under my radar as a kid, well except the DS version, which was okay. Since Miles Morales ignited a sort of spider fever inside of me, I figured now would be an excellent opportunity to experience what many have considered to be one of the best games based on a movie, and after seeing Treyarch's old logo on the screen, I had a pretty good feeling about this. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, my name is Ty with MojoPlays, and this is my retro review of Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation 2.
Watch out!
Heads up! Lucky for you, I pull my punches.
Oh.
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Licensed games, particularly ones based on movies, typically follow the plot of the source material beat for beat. Several games have failed because of this, and few ever manage to do things right. Spider-Man 2 dances the line between being an adaptation of the movie and being a totally original game. While it does focus on Peter Parker struggling to juggle his life as a normal dweeb and life as New York's Guardian, it removes a whole other plotline from the movie and substitutes it with something that doesn't sacrifice gameplay. Instead of going through an entire segment where Pete loses his powers, Black Cat is brought in to help him figure out his problems while beating up baddies in the process.
Are these yours?
Please.
Wait!
And yes, there are more baddies than just Doc Ock. The plot of Spider-Man 2 has been stretched out and re-edited to make room for more of Spidey's catalog of crooks. Players will encounter a handful of other villains, such as Rhino and Shocker, and surprisingly, these appearances don't feel contrived. Of course, not every boss is born equal, as I found myself getting really annoyed with Mysterio, just because of how lame his overall story was, and how infuriating his missions were. Although, after his boss fight, all was forgiven.
I will destroy you utterly. You will bear witness to the majesty and glory of my power.
Spider-Man 2 also utilizes the open world format in a manner that's different from most open world games. Part of my problem with Assassin's Creed Valhalla was how the game wanted you to grind for rewards that were lackluster at best and time-wasting at worst. In other words, nothing was satisfying. As for Miles Morales, I took issue with how repetitive most of the open world side missions were. You were either collecting stuff and fighting random criminals, or collecting other stuff and fighting other random criminals. In Spider-Man 2, would you look at that? It's collecting stuff and fighting criminals. That's weird. So what does Spider-Man 2 do differently than Miles Morales? Whereas Miles Morales practically tells you where everything is, Spider-Man 2 forces you to explore the city a bit more. Even though all the hint tokens are marked on your map, you'll have to do some actual searching for skyscraper tokens and general secret tokens. I can appreciate Miles Morales for saving me the time and just showing me where stuff is, but where's the fun in being told where to go? Where's the sense of adventure, the thrill of a hunt? Why is it just a tour guide, essentially?
To be honest, little jealous.
This isn't to say the open world doesn't have its shortcomings. Much of New York looks identical to the other blocks you'll pass by, and there's no sense of place, so much of your time in between story missions will be spent meandering about, waiting for nearby crimes to spawn or constantly referring to the map to keep track of where you're going.
They said they would hurt me if I didn't pull you. Please don't hate me.
As you complete missions and fight enemies, you'll accrue hero points to spend on combat and navigation upgrades. These will unlock a new combo in your moveset, grant you additional air tricks, or simply improve the way you web sling around the city. There's also more to these hero points and upgrades, as the former is usually required to progress through the story, and the latter can aid you in combat and refill your spider sense. It's a gameplay loop that is still somewhat repetitive, but not so much as Miles Morales was.
How about a little consideration for other people's time? Batter up!
Speaking of which, below your health bar is a blue meter that lets you activate Spider Sense, allowing Pete to slow time so you can land more hits and dodge more easily. To refill this gauge, you'll have to either land a few hits on enemies and dodge their attacks, or do some fast web slinging with an air trick or two to mix in. The more upgrades you have, the more tools you'll have to refill the bar. As much as I liked the concept, the system was too exploitative for most boss fights. An enemy could shoot at me while I was standing behind an object, and I could dodge without any consequence while reaping the rewards, all the same. Basically, all sense of challenge had been tossed out the window. Spidey's controls weren't all that polished either. I didn't have much of an issue moving around from foe to foe, but when web swinging, there was a lot of George of the Jungle going on, and this is where I feel the game hasn't aged well. See, Spider-Man 2's web swinging is designed in a way that's fast and loose. You never know where Pete's gonna shoot his web. Is it going to swing off the building next to him, the building on the opposite side of the road, or the ice cream vendor 50 feet below? Who knows? Whichever one is chosen by the powers that be can affect how low Spidey swings to the ground, thus messing up your speed, momentum, and everything just drops. Insomniac Spider-Man games designed Pete and Miles to still need structures to swing, but it doesn't affect your trajectory at the most inopportune times. You're always in control, so if you mess up, it is your fault. In Spider-Man 2, you're kind of at the mercy of the game's physics. God help you if you swung past your stop during a timed mission or smacked against too many buildings. You can certainly expect a few restarts. Though flawed in its combat and controls, the game can be hilarious in its own archaic ways. For starters, the voice acting and writing is laughably bad. Not even Tobey Maguire or Kirsten Dunst put much effort into their lines. Alfred Molina managed to work what he was given for Doc Ock. As for the rest of the cast, well, there was a moment where I genuinely wondered if Tommy Wiseau had anything to do with this game. I know he didn't. His name doesn't appear in the credits, but for a second, let's imagine Tommy has discovered interdimensional time travel and used a pseudonym to get hired at Treyarch and write the game. You know, someone should make a movie on that. That sounds like a really good plotline.
It doesn't matter. Whatever the reasons, you can't change the past.
Moving on, I couldn't help noticing how such little effort was put into Spider-Man 2's sound design. Score fit for a superhero was about as rare as a believable line delivery from Tobey Maguire. Dialogue exchange between characters mid-combat was far too frequent, adding nothing but noise to the scene with mindless banter and flat quips. Spidey throws a few good one-liners, but what the hell, why is Black Cat the lame one?
Hurry up and deactivate that console! I was right! Look at that shield go down.
The sound effects, on the other hand, were comical, and as much as I liked the stock punch and gunfire audio, I lost it every time I had Spidey stop a speeding car. These segments see you mashing square to punch the car while occasionally avoiding gunfire. However, what makes these bits so funny is how the lack of altered visuals make it seem like Spider-Man is just banging on the car in hopes of annoying the bad guys enough that they'll have to get out.
Time to put a stop to this joyride.
I'm not necessarily criticizing a 2004 game for not being as advanced as a 2020 game, but damn, the age just shows here.
Even you can't stop me, Spider!
So what's the verdict here? Do I regret playing this supposed best Spider-Man game pre-Insomniac? Were the fans right about the game's quality? Were the critics wrong and don't know what a good game is? Or do I wish for my copy to be hurled into Otto's fusion reactor? Despite all my problems with the controls, 1,000 facepalm writing, and a sudden hatred towards Mysterio, I cannot deny it. I enjoyed my time with Spider-Man 2. Is it as good as the movie? Not by a mile, but I can certainly appreciate its place in the franchise's video game portfolio. There were plenty of ideas I noticed that would be implemented in Insomniac's games, from the open world format to the narrative design to how swinging is controlled. It was as if I had been playing a prototype for their games from long ago. Do I plan 100% it? Absolutely not. I love Bruce Campbell as the tutorial guide, but not enough to go find all 200 hint tokens on top of the obscene amount of secret and skyscraper tokens. If anything, I'll just go finish the pizza deliveries. Those were the best.
I got a bunch of pizzas to deliver and you're late. Always, you are late. Well, now you have to hurry. Get going.
I won't let you down, Mr. Aziz.
Thanks for watching. Did you agree or disagree with my review? Let me know in the comments below, and if there's another classic game you'd like to see reviewed here on MojoPlays. In the meantime, how about you go check out some of these other cool videos?
Something big is going down. I'll race you there.
All right, Moonbeam. You're on. Let's go.
Check out these other great clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.